What does a practically pain-free birth actually look like? When you're in labor, going through it, what really happens? Today, I'm going to read a story from Abigail. She shared this with us in the Mighty Mama movement and has given me permission to share her beautiful birth experience with you. I'm not going to read every word because that will get a little bit lengthy here, but I'm going to go over some highlights and show you how it went. So she starts out by saying that she was having contractions for a few days that were just some intense, some not that intense, just going about life for a few days thinking, well, I'm kind of in labor, but nothing really happening. Then she says, Saturday evening, my water burst and we headed to L&D. Once there, I didn't know how fast or slow things would progress since I had never gone into labor spontaneously. I was barely dilated, so they did Pitocin on IV drip and the next 17 hours passed so slowly. Okay, that's a bummer when you feel like labor's been going and you go in and find out not much has happened and they say Pitocin. But how she handled it is the real part that I want to highlight here. She says that a lot of those contractions throughout that time, and even though she was on Pitocin, she really didn't feel them. She couldn't even tell they were happening. She says, most of them I didn't even feel or know were happening unless I looked at the monitor. Okay, now finally things picked up for her. She says, after 17 hours, I was only dilated to a 3. That's a really sad news to hear if you've been in labor for that long. So the doctor on call came in to see what the issue was and found my amniotic sac was still intact. Evidently, I had 2 water sacs to break. So she'd already had 1 water sac break. She thought her water had broken. And she says, anyway, once that was ruptured, I progressed easily to a 5 on the birth ball. Then 5 to delivery was 25 minutes. Fast and hard, but I had great support. My mom said I was very relaxed through each contraction, even though I was having intense waves of pain. And it was so fast, they had to find a different doctor to catch the baby. So I wanted to share this with you to illustrate that, first of all, even when you do everything right and you've had the best birth preparation and you've been super focused, sometimes things don't go perfectly. You know, for her, it wasn't even her first baby. She wasn't expecting to have such a long labor before she went to the hospital, and then being on Pitocin to have 17 hours with almost no progress. But there ended up being this really kind of unusual circumstance where she had 2 water sacs, and that was slowing down the progress. And once they figured that out and they broke it, which isn't something that we necessarily say to do or not to do, but in her case, she'd been in labor so long and decided to do that really fast and smooth, and everything went great. This also shows the importance of learning how to handle those contractions well, because you don't know how long your labor will be. When you do everything right, it usually makes labor go faster and smoother. But again, there are circumstances and reasons that sometimes it doesn't. And even if you're going to get an epidural, you can be in labor for a really long time before you ever get the epidural. So it's so essential that you handle the contractions really well and know how to do that. And that's why I offer a free online birth class called How to Give Birth with Practically No Pain, where I teach one of the most effective techniques to reduce the pain of contractions and a bunch of other great information. So I'm putting the link here in the comment section. And if you want to check that out and learn what Abigail did to have an amazing birth experience, then I invite you to do so.